ways to overcome that fear and get to doing what you have to?
Man, definitely. I get asked that question quite a bit because people I know, they see how I was living before and just the things I'm able to do now. And they're wondering, like, what happened? You know, how is that taking place? And you said it. I just step into it and I have faith and I know that things are going to work out. And I think until you start trying, you know, just the smaller things first, you know, like you were saying about just as far as like being able to open up and mentor someone else. Like maybe you say I'm not prepared yet. I jump into it right away, and I'm gonna either fail and I'm gonna learn from it. I've had so many just times in my life where I jumped into things, whether it was going to the military. I want to be a SEAL. Now I'm out there running on the beach, training with the Navy SEALs. You know, and I've learned so much from different seasons of my life by just going into things, just saying, well, you know, however the outcome is, you know, it's gonna come out that way. It's either gonna be a blessing or a lesson. And it's been just that. So like you're saying, you just got to step into it. You have to step into it. That's kind of where you get to see God work, is where you step into those areas where you feel like, you know, maybe things won't work out. Well, go ahead, jump into it and see, and you get to grow. You learn so many skills. So now as I'm in an arena where if I don't work, if I don't get this done, you know, I don't eat, I don't sleep, I don't build this because I'm no longer, you know, employed. Now I have to jump in and take risks. And you know, it's taught me so much just to be able to know that things are going to work out. If God's telling me something, I know He said He has my back. So, you know, I let Him carry that burden and I jump into it. So I think, like you were saying, you have to step into it. That's the only way. If not, you're going to continue to, you know, wonder. You're going to continue to question. And I'm afraid of just living out a life of that, of never trying things. Like Les Brown said, you know, when you're in the bed and all those people, you know, are around and they're saying, you know, we're waiting on you to do X, X, and X. And, you know, all your dreams just died out there. They said they could have lived out things if you would have just tried, if you would have just went out. That same situation that maybe you were afraid to go to school and you ended up passing, it's the same with every single thing. You just got to jump into it. Some things may take a little longer, but you just keep showing up every single day. And trust me, it ends up working out. And if you don't succeed in that, at the least you're going to learn something from it if you stay positive and able to reflect and have the right perspective on it.
I will say what your comments made me kind of think, right? I will say I think a lot of it. I used to think a lot of ideas and a lot. I spoke on here before that, you know, sometimes I wake up with a lot of things on my mind, a lot of ideas on my mind, right? And I made me think just now, I'm like, a lot of that, is that intuition? Is that God telling me something? And it made me think that I feel like sometimes we say this, but we haven't really dove into it like we are now, is that, and I think Jay has mentioned this, you can't fail without trying. You can't finish without starting.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think a lot of it is that how do you overcome fear and go for it? And I feel like this is the perfect answer, right? This is the number one key. If you're being told more than once to go and do it, go for it.
Yep.
If you're being told multiple times to do something, or you're good at it, or in someone else's eyes you're prepared for it, go for it. Right?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you got that one time where you're just out of conversation, you know. But the key is if you're having that same conversation with somebody you just met yesterday or 5 minutes ago, there's your sign, right?
Absolutely.
So I feel like, you know, the main key to overcome fear and to go for it is exactly that. Go for it. But also, you know, to listen if it's being said twice. 3 times.
And I would also say, just put it in the perspective of, you know, you may end up not succeeding in that. Like, but be okay with that and knowing that it's going to be a lesson. Be okay with failing. You have to be okay with going into things and failing, and put it in perspective of, I'm still going to benefit from that, from at least trying and knowing that it's not something that I have as a regret. So when we start putting it into perspective, like, what's the worst that can happen? if it's something that's going to kill yourself, then yeah, of course, don't be messing around like that. But if you're going to get some rejection, if somebody's going to reject you or, anything like that, I would much rather carry that. At least I tried versus, carrying that, oh, I got rejected.
I will add to that, add a layer to that, or piggyback off what you just said. I will say this, that God sometimes can prepare you to lay the foundation and fail, right?
Yep.
But later on, he can put you back on that same road and you're prepared to build a house.
Yep.
Right? You just never know. Like, you could be going down one road and you're like, it didn't work out, but you can go down another road. It can lead you right back to the road you were just at. But guess what? You're more prepared. You know what I mean? You're understanding those failures that you went through, and you're more prepared more than ever to succeed.
Yep.
Right? So actually, I guess those are two keys now to overcome fear and just go for it, is that listen if it's being told to you more than once, and don't become discouraged as far as like, if you feel at it during the foundation, just know that down the road, you're prepared to be ready to build a house.
So I'm claiming listen as mine. But the reason I'm laughing is because even though I said it, I find that I'm the last one to do it. Right.
Okay.
Like the number of times where like going back to the teaching thing, the number of people who told me when I was younger, like, oh, you should teach. Yeah. And me being me, I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be responsible for somebody's growth, for somebody's education, for somebody's development. I didn't want that.
But I will not to cut you off, but I want to hold in the teaching part, right? Not to cut. I apologize for cutting you off, but it made me realize the teaching part. I remember when you told me about this teaching thing, right? You were like, man, I don't want to teach. I don't like people. I don't like talking to people. But this is the thing. At all. But this is the thing, though, Jay. Your back was against the wall. You had to kind of. Yeah, you had to figure something out. So when you have to figure something out, it's almost like you have to do something that, you don't want to do, but God is preparing you to do it. And look where you're at right now. But go ahead.
But
yeah, go ahead.
Also, gentlemen, what you made me think of is that's why it's so important to know our strengths. Maybe that's an area that I'm not strong at, because like I'm in the process right now. I'm starting at my first school. Our public school system, at the least, is very bad here in California. Like, I have my son coming home telling me he's getting in trouble for praying in class. It's getting that bad. So I said, you know what? I had a talk with God in the season, and he's telling me to open up schools, plant schools. So that's what I'm going to do, because that's what I connect most with. But as I get together a team, like maybe Professor J, maybe that's not your area. I gotta throw.
You know what the funny thing is? I gotta throw some respect.
You should hear his nickname. You should hear his nickname. Gifted. Tell him your nickname, Jay.
Nah, don't worry about it.
Come on, now you gotta let me hear it now.
The thing is, I put that up just because Phil mentioned it one time, and I was like, I'm gonna start using it as my new handle.
I like
it. Just as like throw it out there, and now all of a sudden,
yeah, there you go. His nickname is Professor Ecko.
It flow real good too.
That's right.
I think we should stick with that.
That's right. But
like I was saying, gentlemen, like my last name Mathis means gift of God, so that's why I go by Gifted Mathis. So I'm helping these kids identify their strengths and their gifts, so that way when we come on a team, because that's what it's all about. That's where you get the most joy, where you're working together with others and y'all hitting goals together. Forget building an empire by yourself, but when you're able to have a team, a network of people that are on the same page, everybody has their strength. We look at a football team, the O-linemen in the championship game, they're not worried about running the ball. They don't need that kind of light there, but they want to do their place well. So yeah. I have a vision of just that many people getting together and everybody playing their role well. Maybe it's not a fear, but maybe that's just not where you shine at. Now, I don't know all the details. That's between you and God for people in those situations, but you got to know where you shine at. You got to know where your strengths are at, because you can bring so much to the team when it comes to your strengths.
And I'll add to that, and I feel like, the more you tell yourself that, I'm not this or I'm not that, you're probably furthering your way to your strength.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
The more you gotta say more of a no, more no's.
Yeah.
No's you say, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm with you on
You gotta be able to say, and me and Jay have spoken about it extensively on this show, to where, as men, we're afraid to fail, right? That's just natural, right? We're afraid to fail, to make mistakes, but to admit that we did not succeed in something, right? But at the same time, I feel like this is growth, as far as like saying, you know what, you may fail right now, but it's preparing you for tomorrow. And I feel like that's probably one of another key, as far as like overcoming fear, just go for it.
Yeah. And speaking personally, these days especially, I'm trying to be very mindful about the ways I talk about the things that I'm trying to accomplish, whether it's teaching, which now I've sort of just accepted, like that's part of my journey, that's part of my life, that's part of my ministry, is like whether I actively seek it or not, I'm going to end up teaching somebody something. So I might as well just accept it and do it to the best of my ability if I can.
Yeah.
In your own way.
In your own way. In my own way. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And storytelling is one that I talk about all the time as well. But that being said, for a very long time, the way I spoke to and about myself was not the kindest. The way I spoke to and about my goals was not the kindest. It was always like, oh, that's not going to work anyway, so why try? And it's like, well, you've counted yourself out of the game before you even played a single down. Like, why are you doing that to yourself? Why are you killing your momentum before you've even started the ball rolling?
Yeah.
And I look back on it now, and it's heartbreaking, because there are, like, just knowing myself, I know I'm an ambitious person, but I also know there are so many personal dreams that I've killed for myself because I wasn't willing to try.
Yeah.
And it hurts sometimes, because it's like, yo, you could have been so far ahead already. You could have been somebody, well, not that I'm not to toot my own horn or anything like that, but you could have been somebody else's blessing already if you had just stopped blocking your own. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna add a final point to that. It's not too late.
Oh no, it's not.
It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your life just because the things you've said in the past, doesn't mean the door is completely shut. It just means that you're getting to a point where you're not saying those things anymore. You're getting to a point where it's like those thoughts aren't there anymore. You're feeling more confident, positive, as to a point where it's like, you know what? I am good at the things I thought I wasn't good at. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're laying the foundation. So now later down the road, you're preparing yourself, and God is also preparing you to build a home. And you don't even know it. You know what I mean?
You're going to be able to reflect on the times where you're the complete opposite, because now your best days are coming. And so when you walk into those, you're going to have something to compare to, like, oh, no way, I'm walked out of that now. You're going to be so far away from it that you're going to be living,
And to add that final point also, the most important thing is that you're going to tell somebody else that too.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You're going to add that value to somebody else's life.
And tying it back to, some of the earlier conversations we were having, it's like, and that comes with that goes back to that love thing. You know, I'm learning how to love myself a little bit more a little more every day. And by extension, I'm learning how to love other people and sow that into other people. That goes back to mentorship, that goes back to fear, that goes back to all the things we were talking about, where it's just like, hey, the more you learn about yourself and about the things that you're trying to accomplish, the what's it called? Keeping that humility within yourself ultimately pushes you forward, and before you know it, you're further ahead than you even ever thought you could be.